Hello again, YouTube, and welcome to the 50 something Dasher channel. Just in case you're new to the channel. In today's video, it's been 6 months since I quit the W-2 to do full-time gig work. Okay, so I wanted to do a video, a follow-up with just in general how things are going since I quit, what I think about the decision now, and more specifically, I wanted to address some of the concerns that I had at the time I quit the W-2 and how those concerns have been addressed in the last 6 months. Okay. I'll throw a link in the description for this video, for the previous video where I quit. That video basically is mostly talks about the how and why I came to the decision, is what that kind of focuses on. I did not get into in that video too much about the major concerns that I had because I didn't take quitting the W-2 lightly. I had to really, there's a couple things I really had to think about, a couple major concerns, and I'll get into those here in a second and how I've dealt with those. My last day that I worked at the W-2 was July 16th, 25, and the end date I think that they put in the system for me was July 31st. Okay. I'd have to say overall, I feel it was a great decision for me. Okay, so it was a great decision. I still stand by it. I don't regret quitting the W-2. Overall, things have been going very well. It's been going about how I expected it to. I still stand by the decision. Okay. Now, I mentioned at the time that I quit, there was a couple kind of like major concerns. One thing at the top of the list was benefits, and specifically I want to focus on the health insurance aspect of it. I mean, that's a biggie. Now, these gig apps, they do offer their own various different forms of health insurance. I really haven't checked into those all that much. The first thing that I checked into after I quit was COBRA coverage. As most of you already know, that can be very expensive. The monthly premiums, it was going to be expensive for me. Ultimately, what we ended up doing was my wife picked me up on her insurance. Now, she pays, I mean, her rate went up a pretty significant amount each paycheck to be able to carry me. And, it is what it is. But now at the same time, there was my medications that I've been taking, the prices for the out of pocket for my medications and doctor's visits and everything are now less under my wife's insurance than they were with my old insurance with my W-2. And there's even one medication that I take now that they tried to prescribe it for me when I worked at the W-2, and it was way too expensive. It's going to be like over $100 a month or something stupid. And now under my wife's insurance, it's $20 a month. So yeah, she pays we're paying like a much higher premium, but the cost of services and the prescriptions is less. So I'm comfortable with how things worked out as far as that goes. The other big thing that was a concern at that time that I wanted to address was at the time that I quit the W-2, I didn't have much in the way of a backup plan. So it was kind of a scary thing. I was kind of going out on a limb by quitting and and for all intents and purposes, putting most all of my eggs in the DoorDash basket. I mean, and we all know, we know about how, it doesn't take much to get deactivated from these different gig apps. And if you don't, we all know, if you don't have like a backup plan, and you're going all in on DoorDash, or you're going all in on Uber Eats, or whatever the app, and anything can happen, and you could lose that overnight, and then it's like, what are you going to do? At the time, back in July, I had a few other apps, but really nothing that I was seeing much of any kind of, decent, consistent work on. I mean, at the time, my number two, if I would have had to gone to a number two, was Uber Eats. And I don't know, if something happened to DoorDash back in July or August and I had to turn to Uber Eats, could I have gone full time on that? I don't know, guys. But I'm pleased to say that so on September 4th, so this is only just a little over a month after I quit the W-2, I got on to another gig app, okay? And then is nearly about 2 months after that, so October 30th, I got onto another one. I've all total, I've gotten onto about 3 or 4 other apps in the last 6 months. But those two in particular that are, I would say, like, I would consider to be, for me and my market, better alternatives than like Uber Eats would have been. Now they're not, I wouldn't say that they're better than what I've got with DoorDash. So, but they're comparable. So if God forbid something happened with DoorDash tomorrow or whatever, and I had to turn to something else, either one of these other two, I could jump on and probably, make the money that I need on those. Okay. So I'm pretty confident in where things stand now, 6 months later, as far as backup plan and alternatives. Now, the one thing I mentioned in that previous video 6 months ago, I quit my W-2. The one thing I mentioned on there that I have not really done in the last 6 months, I mentioned in that video how I wanted to look for other types of 1099 type work that is not based on an app. And I know in my area, I know there's opportunities like that because I've seen postings for that type of thing. But I just haven't, for whatever reason, that's something that I wanted to do, but I just haven't really gotten around to. It is what it is. So for right now, 95% of what I do is strictly DoorDash. I'm not a multi-apper. I have other apps, but I don't multi-app in the same day. Same shift a lot, once in a great while, but for the most part, no. Because with DoorDash, I make, and I've been doing it for 3 years. I signed up for DoorDash 3 years ago, and it's been consistent for me this whole 3 years. It's rare. It's very rare that I have a day where I don't make the money that I need to make for that day. That's only happened like a couple times. So I'm comfortable with just logging into one app, and however I allow myself a certain amount of time to make the money that I need. And whether I make it in, some days I might make it in 4 or 5 active hours. Sometimes it might take 6, 7 active hours, something like that. It just depends. But I'm okay with that. I don't need to multi-app and take the best offers and make that money as quickly as I possibly can. It's just my attitude for me personally. I'm okay with just one app, and and however long it takes in the day's time. And usually I make the money that I need sooner than later. So you know okay. The third, now this number 3 here, the third and final like concern, this really wasn't too much my concern, but it's a concern that all kinds of other people have, so I just thought I would address it. But it's what a lot of people say about gig work is that, well, you'll ruin your car, all the wear and tear on your car, and you'll run your car into the ground. Okay. Well, on this particular issue, I can be a glass half empty person on a lot of issues, but on this particular issue, I'm glass half full. Okay. Now you gotta understand my age too, folks. I'm 789 years old here. Okay. So if you're talking a 20 or 21 year old that's looking into getting into gig work full time and doing that long term, well, yeah, somebody like that may run several vehicles down into the ground in their lifetime. Okay, but number one, I'm over 700 years old. Number two, I don't drive like the majority of you watching this video. I don't drive how you drive a vehicle. Okay, I don't go 0 to 80 miles an hour in 1 second. Okay, I don't tailgate. I don't do the hard braking. I drive a vehicle much differently than the average person. And my vehicles, I buy, plus I'm the only one that drives my vehicles. This vehicle, the last one I bought new, they're standard transmission, so my wife can't even drive my cars. Okay, I'm the only one that drives them. And so that's what, like, my previous vehicle lasted, I think it was about 160, 170,000 miles. This one right here, I plan on, I'm confident that I can get somewhere around 200 to 250,000 miles on this car. This is the only car I've used, and I've been DoorDash driving 3 years. And all those miles put on this car, and then I think I can get at least another 3 years. Okay. And then, as old as I am, I can't expect to I hope I'm not living all that much longer. I mean, folks, I don't want to live forever. So as old as I am, what are we really talking about here? Just maybe one more car that I'll ever buy, possibly 2 cars at the most. I can't imagine having to buy 2 more vehicles and driving an additional 500,000 miles doing gig work. I'm just not going to live that long. Okay, that's so that the whole wear and tear on a vehicle, well, okay, you can make that argument to like younger people, but when I'm at the end of the line here, and I've already lived my whole entire life and just ready to move on at this point. I mean, so and real quickly, another thing I'll say about that, another thing I don't like about this, the whole wear and tear on your car. the other thing I'll say about this is it's perfectly fine. And if Becky Sue got onto YouTube and talked about how she has a let's just say she has a 1 hour commute to work 5 days a week, one way an hour, and puts 130 miles on her car every single day, doing, driving back and forth to a W-2, yet I put, let's just say anywhere from 80 to 130 miles per day on my vehicle, but I'm doing it gig work. Well, then all of a sudden that's against the law. You can't, people gripe and complain. You shouldn't be putting that many miles on your car, yada, 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 if it's gig work. But if it's a W-2, nobody says anything. And, in my example, that girl, 130 miles a day on her car. And in addition to that, once every other week, she drives out from South Carolina to Texas to go see her long distance boyfriend, and you got all those miles as well. I mean, a person like that's putting more miles on their car than I am, yet what I'm doing is so wrong. It's just, I don't know, it's just kind of stupid. And now a couple things is that I wanted to kind of touch on is some of the benefits of full-time gig work. I mean, being able to set my own hours. I mean, that's just been huge. But the one benefit about the decision, and then these last 6 months, no W-2, full-time gig work, and the benefit to this that I didn't realize would be as huge for me than what it's been is no more co-workers. And I can't, I mean, I could do a whole video on this if I wanted to. I'll try not to rant too much about this, but I guess I must not have realized when I quit the W-2 how burnt out I was on just working with other people. And to say that the last 6 months has been like a relief, a breath of fresh air, whatever words you want to use, is the biggest understatement in the history of freaking understatements. I mean, sometimes, I listen to the radio while I'm dashing or whatever, but a lot of times the radio's off. I don't have any radio, I don't have any music playing. It is like, it's me going down the road to a merchant or a customer and total silence. And I can't get enough of it, of being independent, working on my own, no co-workers. And like I said, until I got to this point, I just didn't realize until now how much, I don't know the words I'm looking for, how much good this is doing me, how much right this job is for me, whatever words you want to use. But it's just all those years. You're talking over, I work for this company that I work for. It was 18 years. Then I quit. I was out for a couple years. Then I came back to them for another 7 years, 25 years total. And the vast majority, over 20 years of the 25, was spent in miserable, dirty, disgusting, filthy, depressing warehouses. It's just filthy, gritty, grimy warehouse work. Surrounded by drama, bickering, fighting, gossip, pettiness, laziness, all I don't, and to go from working with all of that BS, it's like to go from that to all of a sudden going to none of that, from all of it to none of it. I mean, it's one of the most drastic work changes in my whole entire life, and folks, I love it. If you gave me the option right now, here's my two options. Okay, Joe, we'll give you your old W-2 back. The job that they did get rid of, they eliminated my position, but let's say they brought it back. We'll give you your old position at the old W-2. We'll pay you $45 an hour. Okay. Or your second choice is to remain in gig work, remain a DoorDash driver. But here's the deal. Your pay as a DoorDash driver is going to drop down to an average of $12 an active hour. So do you want $12 an active hour doing DoorDashing, or $45 an hour at the old W-2? That would be I'm being dead serious. I'm not joking around here. That'd be a hard decision for me. I'd be tempted to take a $12 an hour job where I've total, independence. I'm working completely independently on my own, versus $45 an hour and working around all the crap. So but anyway, again, in closing, things are going very well for me. I hope this continues. I don't regret the decision. I'm happy with the decision, and we'll see what the next 6 months and going on forward looks like. And if anything ever drastic was to happen, I wouldn't rule out ever going back to a W-2. But I want to try anything and everything possible to avoid ever having to do that. Straight the F up. Thanks so much, guys, for watching. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel. I'd appreciate it very much. As always, be sure to drive safe out there, and we'll catch you at the next video. Thanks again, guys.